They said the girl was nothing. A poor orphan. A servant in her own home. A girl no man would ever choose. But on the day of the great New Yam festival, before the entire kingdom of Udala, the prince ignored the daughters of chiefs and wealthy men. And chose her. This is the story of Udala, the forgotten maiden who rose from the dust to become queen. In the ancient Igbo kingdom of Udala, surrounded by thick forests and wide farmlands, lived a young maiden named Udala. No one in the village could remember the last time they saw her laugh. Udala lost her parents when she was very young. Her father, a respected palm wine tapper, fell from a tall palm tree one season during the Harmattan winds. Not long after, her mother died from an illness that swept through the village. From that day, Udala's life changed. She was taken in by her father's elder brother, Uncle Nana, but it was his wife, Mbik, who ruled the household. Mbik was a harsh woman who believed Udala was nothing but an extra mouth to feed. "You will work for your food," she often said. While Mbik's own daughters wore bright wrappers and decorated their hair with beads, Udala wore old faded clothes and spent her days doing chores. Before sunrise she swept the compound. She walked long distances to fetch water from the stream. She gathered firewood from the forest. She pounded yam until her arms ached. Yet Udala never complained. Even when the villagers mocked her worn clothes, she greeted everyone with respect. Some of the elders quietly admired her humility, but no one dared challenge Mbik's authority in her household. Far away from the village center stood the king's palace, where Prince Chidibe, the only son of Igwe Izudo, lived. Prince Chidibe was known across the land for his wisdom and calm nature. Though many maidens admired him, he rarely paid attention to them. The king had begun to worry. "My son," Igwe Izudo said one evening, "you must begin to think of marriage. The kingdom will need a queen someday." Prince Chidibe replied respectfully, "Father, I will marry when I meet a woman whose heart is stronger than her desire for the throne." The king sighed deeply. Finding such a woman, he believed, would not be easy. One planting season, the king announced a grand cultural celebration known as the Festival of New Yam. It was the biggest celebration in Udala. Villagers from nearby communities gathered to dance, feast, and give thanks to the ancestors. This year's festival carried special importance. The royal council had decided that during the celebration, the prince would choose a bride. Excitement spread through the kingdom like wildfire. Young maidens began preparing beautiful wrappers and beads. Mothers whispered prayers that their daughters would catch the prince's attention. When the news reached Mbik's compound, her daughters screamed with joy. "This is our chance," one of them said. Mbik quickly began making plans. She brought out her best wrappers and began preparing them for the festival. Udala listened quietly from the corner while pounding cassava. Later that evening, gathering courage, she asked softly, "Auntie, may I also go to the festival?" Mbik turned sharply. "You," she scoffed. "You want to stand among daughters of chiefs and wealthy men?" Her daughters laughed loudly. "Look at her hands," one said. "They are rough like a farmer's." "Stay here," Mbik ordered coldly. "Someone must remain to guard the house." Udala lowered her eyes and said nothing more. On the day of the festival, the village square filled with music and laughter. Colorful dancers moved to the rhythm of drums. Masquerades entertained the crowd while elders sat proudly in decorated seats. Udala remained alone at home. But after finishing her chores, something inside her pushed her to walk quietly toward the festival grounds, just to watch from a distance. She stood beneath a large Udala tree at the edge of the crowd, hoping no one would notice her. At the center of the village square, the prince sat beside his father, observing the celebration. One by one, maidens performed dances before the royal family. Many were beautiful and well-dressed, but their smiles seemed forced, their eyes filled with ambition. Prince Chidibe watched politely but remained unmoved. As the sun began to set, the chief priest prepared for the final blessing of the festival. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the edge of the square. An elderly woman had stumbled and fallen while carrying a heavy basket of kola nuts meant for the ceremony. People stepped aside, unwilling to dirty their clothes or disrupt the festivities. Before anyone else could react, Udala rushed forward. She gently helped the old woman stand and gathered the scattered kola nuts from the dusty ground. "It is all right, Mama," she said softly. "Let me carry the basket for you." The prince had been watching the scene closely. He noticed something others had ignored. The girl helping the old woman was not dressed like the other maidens. Her wrapper was simple, her feet dusty from walking. Yet her kindness was effortless. When Udala finished helping the woman, she turned to leave quietly. But the prince stood up. "Wait," he called. The crowd fell silent. Udala froze, confused and frightened. Prince Chidibe stepped forward and asked gently, "What is your name?" "Udala, my prince," she replied, bowing her head. "And why were you not among the dancers?" I was not invited, she answered honestly. The prince studied her for a moment, then turned to the elders. A woman who helps another without seeking attention has already shown more character than any performance. Whispers spread through the crowd. That evening, the royal council gathered to discuss the prince's unusual interest in the unknown maiden. Some chiefs protested. She is poor, one argued. We know nothing of her family, said another. But the prince remained firm. A queen must have compassion for the people, he said calmly. That girl has it. The oldest elder in the council spoke after a long silence. I know the girl, he said. She is the daughter of the late Okachukwu, the palm wine tapper who died years ago. The king nodded slowly, remembering the man. He was honest and hardworking, the king said. The elder continued, the girl has suffered greatly, yet she remains humble. Such strength cannot be taught in the palace. After hearing this, Igwe Izudo made his decision. The next morning, royal messengers arrived at Uncle Nana's compound. Mbik nearly dropped the pot she was carrying when she saw them. The messenger announced loudly. By order of the king, Adaoma is summoned to the palace. Fear filled Mbik's heart. She assumed Adaoma had done something terrible. But when Adaoma arrived at the palace, she was welcomed with honor. Prince Chidibia stood before her and spoke clearly. Adaoma, yesterday I saw the kindness in your heart. I have searched for a woman who values people more than pride. He paused before continuing. If you accept, I wish to make you my wife. Adaoma was speechless. The girl who had once been treated like a servant in her own home was about to become the future queen of Umuzila. Their wedding took place during the next full moon. The entire kingdom celebrated. Adaoma never forgot the hardship she endured. As queen, she helped widows, protected orphans, and made sure no child in the kingdom suffered the way she once did. And in time, the villagers began to tell a new story. Not of the poor orphan girl, but of the queen whose kindness changed the destiny of a kingdom.